Hi, everybody. It was a warm spring night in 2015. I was walking down the sidewalk on a relatively busy road as the bright headlights of cars were zooming by. I hadn't showered in a week, and I hadn't eaten since the day before. The withdrawal symptoms were starting to kick in. Moments of desperation can easily drive the mind to insanity. I remember stepping out into the road. I didn't want to die, but I also couldn't imagine living like this for one more second. When I was in high school, it was a constant struggle to figure out who I was and to fit in. I never felt like I was enough, skinny enough, pretty enough, funny enough, cool enough. I could go on all day. Have you ever felt that way? I need for you to hear me on this. You are enough. You are perfectly imperfect, exactly as you are. We can be our own worst critics sometimes. We beat ourselves up way too much. Trust me, if anyone else talked to me the way I talk to me, I would throw hands. Back then, one source of joy was always constant. There was one thing that I was sure of. I have always had a passion for makeup and hair. Do you remember what our makeup and hair looked like in the early 2000s? Let me refresh your memory. For me, it looked like a pound of bronzer, white eyeliner, and so much lavender shimmer on my eyelids, you could see me from space. My hair was bleached to a lovely shade of yellow-orange and was flat-ironed straight, with a zigzag part down the center. You remember those? Trust me, it was a whole vibe. Now, I am an intelligent woman, and I got great grades in school. I was in all honors classes, and I did really well on standardized tests. I was set to go off to college and become a woman who people could be proud of. The summer before my senior year, I became intoxicated for the first time. It was glorious. For the first time that I could remember, I actually felt like I fit in. I felt comfortable in my own skin. I decided right then and there to chase this feeling as hard and as often as I could. Everything else started to fall away. Nothing else mattered anymore. My grades plummeted. I probably still could have gotten into college, but I was terrified to try. I knew that I would probably flunk out pretty quickly. My priorities had shifted. I wanted to party, not work hard and be under constant pressure. No, thank you. So I had to decide what I was going to do with myself. I was talking to my dad one night, and I mentioned cosmetology school. My father got this glimmer of hope in his eyes, because here he was watching my rapid decline into active addiction, and I was showing interest in something. He told me to start looking at schools, and I did. I found one, and I signed up. I felt good about it. I really did have a passion for the beauty industry. I graduated from high school in 2003, and that fall I started beauty school. Over the course of the next year, I obtained my license in cosmetology, and I became a certified esthetician. If I'm being honest, I was partying a lot, and most of school was a blur, but I do well on standardized tests, remember? So I held it together just enough to finish my hours and pass my exams. From 2004 to 2014, I bounced around to a gazillion full-service salons and spas. I was decent enough at doing hair, and as long as I was having a good day, people enjoyed sitting in my chair. Honestly, though, most days weren't good days. My addiction progressed tremendously throughout those 10 years. My life became increasingly unmanageable. Each and every salon I worked at, I was eventually fired from. And the reasons were always related to my addiction. I've been fired for not showing up for work, for stealing from the salon, for stealing from my fellow stylists. I'm not proud of it, but it happened. Even for showing up for work so intoxicated that I nodded off to sleep in the middle of a haircut. But I would just apply for a job somewhere else, because as we know, for stylists, there's always another job, right? I hadn't worked at all for most of 2014 and 2015. My addiction had progressed so far that I had exhausted all of my options. A person in this state couldn't work even if they wanted to. I had been cut off by all of the people in my life who loved me. I had lost everything, including myself. I was in a toxic relationship with another addict. We were living in a tent in the woods. My life had become walking the streets day and night, scrambling to get my next fix, bathing in fast food bathrooms and stealing food to eat from grocery stores. I was a shell of a human. Nothing mattered anymore except for finding my next high. So now we're back at that moment where I stepped into the road on that summer night in 2015. Right then, something snapped in my mind. This was rock bottom. I had finally had enough. I jumped back onto the sidewalk and I made the call to get into a detox facility. A few blurred months later, in November of 2015, I graduated from an inpatient treatment program and moved into a halfway house. So a requirement to live in this halfway house was to get and keep a job. The hours that I was available to work were restricted because of mandatory house meetings. So I applied at a few full-service salons in the area, but because of my limited availability, nobody would hire me. Then I saw it. Sport Clips, opening soon, banner in town. The directors of the house, they suggested that I apply at Sport Clips. Listen, I had heard of Sport Clips before, okay? I had seen the buddy cards. No way, I said. I fix free haircuts, I don't give them. Clearly, my ego was getting the better of me. I was told that if I didn't get a job, I would be asked to leave. So begrudgingly, off to Sport Clips I went. The store that I applied at, it wasn't even open yet. So for my interview, I had to go to a store a few towns over to meet with the manager. Seems simple, right? Not when you don't have a car. It was 3 hours on the bus each way to get to my interview. But I showed up. I fell in love with the manager immediately. We had so much fun together that day, and she offered me the job on the spot. My misconceptions about this company began to melt away. I could not have been more wrong about Sport Clips. After about 3 months of bliss in my new job, my manager asked me to be a key holder. This meant, you know what it means, that I would be opening and closing the store, and I would have a key to, you guessed it, the safe. Mallory knew my story. She knew I hadn't even been sober for a year yet. She was asking me to handle money. Have you met me? Like, are you sure? She told me that she and the team leader both felt it was the right decision and that I was a great team member. Okay, whatever you say. And for my next 2 years with that team leader, Mallory continued to believe in me before I was able to believe in myself. I even became the manager of a new store that we opened. Y'all, I will never forget my first national huddle in Las Vegas as a manager. I was so excited, but I was also terrified. I had never traveled sober. And we were going to Vegas. Vegas. With thousands of hairstylists who were going to be living it up and partying and living their best lives, which was awesome for them, but not okay for someone like me. I knew that I needed to not only stay sober, but sane. So I developed a plan. Where are my beautiful pregnant women at? Make some noise. Yes. I want to shout out to all of you. My strategy was to find pregnant women and make friends. I have never actually been pregnant, but I imagine that these women would be sober, looking for amazing food, and going to bed early. This sounded perfect to me. And wouldn't you know, it worked. I also attended a breakout session where the presenter happened to be another sober person. This person is a platform artist with one of the companies that we partner with frequently. I asked him how he travels all the time for work and stays sober around normal people who drink to celebrate and have a good time without losing his mind. He shared his experience, strength, and hope with me. And I still carry that conversation with me right here to this day. I asked him if it was all right to share a picture of us together for this moment, and he said absolutely. So here's me and Colin together at IBS New York in 2018. If this is your first huddle sober, I see you. If you are struggling, come and find me. I will do my absolute best to make time for you. Just outside these doors, there is a table where a few of my friends are handing out pins with a semicolon symbol on them. Do you know what the significance of a semicolon is for people who struggle with addiction or mental health? A semicolon is used when an author could have ended their sentence, but instead they chose to go on. This symbol is meant to remind me to keep going, even when I feel like stopping. If you are struggling with your sobriety or your mental health, if you are feeling scared or uncomfortable for any reason at all, I want you to stop and pick up one of those pins on your way out and put it on your outfit where we can see it. Do we know what this year's National Huddle theme is? What is it? Dare to be, that's right. Dare to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to ask for help. The strongest people I know ask for help when they are having a hard time. If you are a person who's not struggling this week, you're just having the time of your life, but you are willing to provide a safe space for someone who is, I want you to stop at that table and pick up a pin and put it somewhere in your outfit where we can see it. Dare to be supportive of your fellow team members. If you need to talk to someone or you are feeling unsafe for even 1 second, look for these semicolons. You will either find someone who is possibly going through the exact same thing as you, or someone who wants to show you that you are not alone and encourage you to take a deep breath and keep going. In 2018, an area coach position became available in my area. I have always loved to teach as much as I love to learn. Even in the height of my active addiction, the stylists who took time out of their day to teach me something that helped them behind the chair had a huge impact on me. My men's cuts were continuing to improve because the stylists and coaches around me at Sport Clips were teaching me new techniques all the time. So I went for it. I applied for the coach position, and I got it. This girl, who had lost everything countless times and was forbidden from calling her own parents just a few years prior because her journey was too painful to watch, had sobered up, worked her butt off, and landed her dream job. I love you too. I began my role as a coach, and I was loving every single minute. Just like Mallory, my new boss Erin, and all of my fellow coaches believed in me so fiercely that eventually I began to believe in myself as I became more comfortable in my position. It was time to set my sights on my next goal. I wanted to be an artistic team member. I applied for the first time in 2018, and I didn't make it. It wasn't my time yet. I allowed myself to feel sad for a little while, and then I picked myself up, brushed myself off, and continued to work hard to hone my skills. I applied again last year. I don't think that there are actual words for what I felt when Stacia and Julie welcomed me to the artistic team in the end of 2021. I'm still pinching myself. Throughout my journey at Sport Clips, I have never stopped fighting for my recovery from alcohol and drugs. Being sober, working on forgiving myself, healing from my trauma, making amends to the people I have harmed, and being service to others have been and continue to be the most important aspect of my life. Shout out to my therapist. She's the real MVP for helping me sort out the things that go on up here. 12-step meetings are still a huge part of my life. I sit on the vice chair, as the vice chair on the board of directors for the nonprofit organization responsible for the inpatient program in the halfway house where I lived. I have been in recovery from alcohol and drugs for almost 7 years now. Is it always easy? No. Is it always worth it? Hell yes. Do I think that I am perfect? Far from it. I still mess up all the time. Do I strive to do a little bit better today than I did yesterday? Every single day. I need every person in this room to know that no matter where you have been in your life up to this point, I believe in you. Even if you don't believe in yourself yet. I need you all to take that stick that you beat yourself up with and put it down. You don't need it anymore. I want you to practice being kind to yourself today. Give yourself some grace. We all have a past. We all have a story. Learn from it. Grow from it. Use it as an opportunity to strive toward being your best self. Where I have been and the things that I have experienced shaped me into the woman standing before you on this stage today. That girl who stepped out into traffic all those years ago almost ended her sentence, but at the last second, something made her choose to go on. I am so grateful for that, and my story isn't over yet. Thank you.